Okay, so continuing our work with inverses, what we want to talk about now is how to find the equation of an inverse. Recall that we find an inverse of a relation or a function by switching the x and the y coordinates. Therefore, if we describe a relation or a function by an equation in x and y, we can switch the x and y to get an equation for the inverse. Let me show you what I mean. Finding an equation for the inverse. What is the inverse of y equals 2x plus 8? Well, first of all, notice that y equals 2x plus 8 is a linear function whose domain is going to be all real numbers. So the first thing we do, just like when we find any inverse, is we switch the x and the y. So x equals 2y plus 8. Solve the resulting equation that we get for y. So it's a linear equation, so our goal is to get y by itself, so we'll subtract 8 on both sides, as you can see. That gives us x minus 8 equals 2y. We'll divide both sides by 2. And thus we get x over 2 minus 4 equals y for the inverse. And we have found the inverse of the function. Take a look at a second example. What is the inverse of the quadratic function y equals 5x squared plus 2? Again, the first thing you want to do is you want to switch your x and your y. Now in this case, we're solving a quadratic equation, but it's a quadratic equation without a linear term, so therefore we can just use square roots. So after we switch the x and the y, you can see we get x equals 5y squared plus 2. We'll take away the 2 on both sides, isolating the y squared. And then we'll divide everything by 5. And then finally, as the last step, we'll square root both sides. And thus we get the function y equals the positive or negative square root of x minus 2 divided by 5, the inverse. Inverse notation. The inverse of a function f is denoted by f negative 1. You read f negative 1 as the inverse of f or as f inverse. It doesn't mean f to the negative first power, it means inverse. The notation f of x is used for functions, but the relation f, the inverse of f, may not even be a function. And we'll leave it there.